Hello, this is Noah Carl from Aporia Magazine. Welcome to my video on how you're going to be replaced by AI. I want to discuss what I think are likely effects of AI on the labour market based on scientific evidence. I'm not going to deal with any of the far-fetched scenarios, the singularity, AI taking over the world, or turning us all into paperclips, nor will I discuss any technical aspects of AI. I'd like to begin by noting that there seems to be a lot of cope about AI, particularly from conservatives. Many leftists are already quite hostile to the technology due to worries about energy use and animus toward tech bros. A lot of people seem to think society will be roughly the same, but with more AI slop on the timeline. This is wrong. AI is going to cause rapid social change, something conservatives are meant to be skeptical of. And AI is going to replace far more jobs than immigrants. So if you're concerned about losing your job to an immigrant, you should be even more concerned about AI. So I was pleasantly surprised to see this tweet from Matt Walsh, a prominent conservative influencer. Walsh says, "It's weird that we can all clearly see how AI is about to wipe out millions of jobs all at once, destroy every artistic field, make it impossible for us to discern reality from fiction, and destroy human civilization as we know it. And yet not one single thing is being done to stop it. We aren't putting up any fight whatsoever." I wouldn't necessarily go quite that far, though I agree with the general sentiment. Anyway, let's go over some quotes. A lot of mid-level intellectual jobs are going to disappear. That's from Geoffrey Hinton, a scientist known as the godfather of AI. AI could eliminate 70 to 80% of existing human jobs. That's from Sam Altman, the head of OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT. AI is going to eat a shit ton of jobs. That's from Andrew Yang, the former presidential candidate and one of the few US politicians who actually reads the scientific literature. Some more quotes. "I'm 50% sure we're all going to be unemployed within 10 years. That's from Peter Wilderford, an AI researcher and super forecaster. This offers the prospect of replacing almost all forms of human labor. That's from Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary and former president of Harvard. There will come a point where no job is needed. That's from Elon Musk, who needs no introduction. I should note that there are others who are more skeptical, people like Steven Pinker and Gary Marcus. Here are results from a survey of the IGM Economic Experts panel. These are top economists from schools like MIT and Chicago. They were asked whether they agreed that, quote, use of artificial intelligence over the next 10 years will have a negative impact on the earnings potential of substantial numbers of high-skilled workers in advanced countries. As you can see, there was quite a lot of uncertainty, but almost none disagreed. Weighting by confidence, 45% agreed and only 5% disagreed. And here are results for European economic experts. These are top economists from schools like LSE and the Paris School of Economics. As you can see, the results were very similar. Weighting by confidence, 54% agreed and only 6% disagreed. So it isn't just people like Sam Altman and Elon Musk who have an obvious incentive to overhype AI who are concerned about labor market impacts. This chart just shows AI progress on basic tasks like recognizing handwriting, recognizing speech, and recognizing images. As you can see, it was extremely rapid. As of 2020, AI was already as good as or better than humans on most of these tasks. This chart from Meta shows AI progress on software engineering tasks of increasing complexity. On the horizontal axis, you have the release date of each model, and on the vertical axis, you have the duration of tasks on which a particular model achieves a success rate of 50% or better. So, for example, GPT-5, which was released earlier this year, has a success rate of 50% or better on tasks that take over 2 hours. And as you can see, there is no sign whatsoever of a slowdown. In fact, the progress is better than linear. This chart is from a recent study by OpenAI. They asked industry professionals to create real-world tasks such as audit pricing inconsistencies in purchase orders or assess skin lesion images and create consultation report. They then asked AI and human experts to complete the tasks and had other human experts evaluate them. As you can see, the latest models approached parity with human experts. Again, there is no sign of a slowdown in progress. This study is important because a lot of other AI benchmarks suffer from training to the test. This one arguably doesn't. Some people say that AI is just a stochastic parrot or a glorified autocomplete. Yet, recent studies have found that AI is better than human experts at writing code, reviewing legal contracts, answering therapy questions, coming up with business ideas, offering ethical advice, and even writing poetry. To me, the copers are starting to sound like Reg in the "What have the Romans ever done for us" scene from Monty Python's Life of Brian. All right, but apart from all the above, what has AI ever done better than humans? Just to demonstrate that I'm not making stuff up, here are two of the studies mentioned on the previous slide. AI language model rivals expert ethicist in perceived moral expertise. And AI-generated poetry is indistinguishable from human-written poetry and is rated more favorably. This chart shows the results of a flash fiction competition held by Mark Lawrence, an American novelist. He had 4 leading novelists, including himself, write short stories, and he also had AI write 4 short stories. The authors who took part have collectively sold over 15 million books. Without disclosing the authors of each story, he asked his readers to rate them and to guess whether they were written by a human or AI. As you can see, the highest rated story, labeled 5, was written by an AI, but readers thought it was written by a human. The 3rd and 4th highest rated stories were also written by AI. So, we're at the point where AI can write short stories better than leading novelists. This is an article in The Spectator written by Sean Thomas, a British novelist. He asked an AI for feedback on his latest novel, which was not in the AI's training data. After only 20 seconds, it served up a critique that was so good, it left him, quote, slack-jawed and dumbfounded. Thomas added, "What makes this critique particularly striking to me is its similarity to the critique my professional editor has already given me, down to minor details. So, AI can do publishing better than top editors." And here's Paul Schrader, the legendary Hollywood screenwriter who wrote Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. He writes in a Facebook post, "I just sent ChatGPT a script I'd written some years ago and asked for improvements. In 5 seconds it responded with notes as good or better than I've ever received from a film executive." And in another post he says, "I've just come to realize AI is smarter than I am, has better ideas, has more efficient ways to execute them. This is an existential moment, akin to what Kasparov felt in 1997 when he realized Deep Blue was going to beat him at chess. So, AI can do screenwriting better than leading screenwriters." This is a recent paper by Penades and colleagues, which showed that AI can make novel scientific discoveries, again outside of its training data. Basically, these researchers had a result that they hadn't yet published, and they wanted to see if the AI could figure it out by itself. They found that it could, which they describe in the paper as astonishing, and Google researchers recently reported something similar. The reason I mention this is that there's a viral quote from the podcaster Dwarkesh Patel, who said, referring to AI models, "These things have basically the entire corpus of human knowledge memorized, and they haven't been able to make a single new connection that has led to a discovery." Well, now they have made new connections that led to discoveries. So, what makes AI special? You might say, we already have human geniuses, people like John von Neumann. So what if we now have computer geniuses too? Well, there are 3 ways that AI is different. First, the speed of information processing. It can read a book in 20 seconds. Second, it works on many tasks simultaneously. You and I can both use AI at the same time, but there's only one John von Neumann, and if he's working on physics, he can't work on other things. Third, AI is cheap, at least compared to humans. High-skilled workers get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, which companies would like to save if they can. Here's another quote. "AI will cause the price of work that can happen in front of a computer to decrease much faster than the price of work that happens in the physical world. This is the opposite of what most people, including me, expected, and will have strange effects." That again is from Sam Altman. So here's a chart from a paper by Tutloff and colleagues. They analyzed data from a major freelancing platform and classified jobs as either complementary to AI, unaffected, or substitutable. Substitutable jobs included those involving things like writing and translation. As you can see, they found that after the launch of ChatGPT, there was a significant divergence in job postings for complementary versus substitutable jobs, whereby the number of postings for substitutable jobs went down. Here's a chart from a paper by Hue and colleagues. They also found that employment in affected occupations fell sharply relative to employment in unaffected occupations after the introduction of ChatGPT. Here's a chart from a paper by Bryn Jolfson and colleagues. They looked at changes in employment for workers at different career stages in several highly affected occupations, in this case software developers. After the launch of ChatGPT, employment for early career software developers diverged sharply from employment for senior software developers. Here's another chart from a paper by Lichtinger and Mausam. They tracked employment in AI adopting and non-adopting firms around the launch of ChatGPT, and also found a sharp divergence in employment for junior versus senior workers. Finally, here's a chart from a paper by Tieselink. He compared employment at AI-exposed versus non-exposed firms around the launch of ChatGPT, and again found that employment declined at AI-exposed firms. He observes that AI-exposed firms, quote, sharply curtail new hiring, and that the observed effects concentrate almost entirely in high-wage segments. It should be noted that so far the aggregate effects of AI on the labour market are small. However, they will likely become more pronounced over time. So, here are my predictions for the next 2 decades. Routine jobs will be automated first, things like data entry and customer service. Then mid-level jobs, paralegals and programmers. Then high-level jobs, lawyers and scientists. And jobs involving manual dexterity or human empathy will be last to be automated, nurses and plumbers. Indeed, Geoffrey Hinton has said, quote, my best bet about a job that's safe is plumbing. And Western countries will need a lot of nurses because of aging populations. So I think we're going to see people shift from professions like programming into professions like nursing. This time is different. Because people will say, what about the Industrial Revolution? That also destroyed a lot of jobs. But the Industrial Revolution created many jobs. Plus, people had time to adapt as it unfolded over decades. Take the example of hi-fi recording from the economist Robert Frank. Before hi-fi, you could make a living as a classical singer, singing at restaurants and events in your town. After hi-fi, one could simply record the top singers like Pavarotti, and they captured the entire market. AI will be like hi-fi for many intellectual professions. Here is a hypothetical chart. It is not based on real data, and the scale on the vertical axis is arbitrary. It shows labor force diversity, the number of different jobs there are to do. Ironically, I made the chart using AI. It seems to me that as technology has advanced over the course of history, labor force diversity has generally risen. There were more things to do after the Industrial Revolution than there were before, and there were more things to do after World War II than after the Industrial Revolution. We may now be at the first point in history when labor force diversity falls as more and more jobs are automated by AI. To be clear, this is not a chart of total employment, but of employment diversity, how many different things there are to do. Okay, but won't we all be rich? I think it's plausible that GDP will be higher, and eventually much higher. That's what you'd expect if the price of doing intellectual work falls precipitously. As for inequality, it seems to me that it may initially rise as AI makes the top workers even more productive, and then fall as it replaces literally everyone. And it's likely that we'll eventually have some form of universal basic or high income, first as a supplement to wages, then as a replacement. This universal basic income will be funded out of all the extra output the AI economy produces. It's probably not coming in the next 5 years, though. So, conclusions. AI is extremely impressive, regardless of whether it thinks. Over the next 2 decades, it will eliminate a lot of jobs. There will still be work for a while, and GDP will be higher. But. And here's a preview of Part 2. Mass unemployment is a red herring. After all, the extra output generated by AI will create new demand for labor. The real issues are loss of status, identity, and meaning, and a breakdown of social relations. Plus, economic growth doesn't make us happy. Thanks for listening. If you want to support my work, do check out our magazine. We're a Substack with about 19,000 subscribers. You can find us at aporiamagazine.com or search Aporia Magazine. Stay tuned for Part 2.